Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCollum, and I'm here at Cape Esperance on Guadalcanal, courtesy of war historian Battlefield Expeditions. And this is an area of Guadalcanal, a part of the battle that's really underappreciated. So most people know Guadalcanal for Bloody Ridge, Edson's Ridge, Henderson Field. Well, the battle kept going for months after those climactic events, and it was less climactic, but it wasn't any less difficult for the soldiers that were here. The Marines left, the Army took over, but there were still thousands of Japanese soldiers on the island. Now, in the wake of the big battle in October up on Bloody Ridge towards Henderson Field, the Japanese were defeated, their supply base had been destroyed prior to the battle, and they're left disorganized and pushed back into the jungle. And they don't have any really good way to survive. The units aren't really able to rebuild themselves, and instead they're left retreating up to the north and south, but to the east and west, but mostly to the west out here, trying to find food. Japanese soldiers had an incredibly horrible time in the jungle without food, without supplies, poor quality. Their equipment was falling apart, especially in the wake of a significant defeat. And at any rate, they come up here towards Cape Esperance on the western side of the combat area on Guadalcanal. And on February 1st and 2nd, the Japanese executed one of their best executed operations of the whole battle, which was the evacuation of troops from essentially these beaches. The Japanese brought in destroyers at night, sent landing boats into the shore, and were able to pick up almost 5,000 troops just on the night of February 1st and 2nd. Now, during this time, the U.S. Army is executing what's generally referred to as just a mopping up campaign, where they're coming west from Henderson Field, trying to clear out all of the Japanese. And what they do in early February, actually the exact same time that these Japanese evacuations are taking place, the U.S. lands the 132nd Regiment just out around this corner, a couple miles up. But the intention being, we've got Army guys up there, we've got Army guys down on Bonegi Beach, and they're going to come together in a pincer movement to envelop the remaining Japanese force and wipe them out. The U.S. doesn't realize, kind of surprisingly, they don't realize that the Japanese are actually in the process of trying to evacuate their men. And actually, it's kind of understandable. They did interpret the destroyers coming in and the evacuations as actually being reinforcements. The Japanese had been using fast destroyers to land additional troops on the island throughout the campaign. And here, the Americans are misunderstanding the presence of these ships at night as reinforcements instead of the evacuations they actually are. And so a few days later, in early February, the Guadalcanal campaign comes to a really pretty anticlimactic end when the two sides of this Army pincer movement meet up here and discover that the Japanese are gone. All that's left are remnants of equipment that they weren't able to take with them. So the Japanese had been executing a holding operation. They landed fresh troops specifically to defend the retreat towards this evacuation site, and then those guys were the last ones on the boat and out. So, like I said, most people think of Guadalcanal as the Marine campaigns and those couple of big climactic battles right on the outskirts of Henderson Field, but there was months of really pretty awful jungle combat, slogging through, bushwhacking through heavy jungle, and fighting with a Japanese retreating force up to right here, which today looks like an absolutely magnificent paradise sort of beach. And it is, it's a beautiful beach. And it's really quite interesting to contrast what we see today with the really tumultuous events that took place here back in 1943. So hopefully you guys enjoyed this video. If you're interested in this sort of thing, war historian Battlefield Expeditions does tours to come out here to show you places like this that don't normally get into sort of the typical Guadalcanal tours, if there is such a thing as a typical Guadalcanal tour. Anyway, hopefully you enjoyed the video. Thanks for watching.